I don't think for three of us that investing in Tesla is only about the money.
Oh no.
It's clearly not only about the financial returns. If it was, we wouldn't be that invested in this journey.
Yeah, correct.
Alexandra is hosting us in her home here in the patio for a discussion about Tesla's future. So you've all seen Alexandra Merz on YouTube and in this channel before, and today we've got another guest, Freddy.
Hello.
Freddy, what should the audience know about you?
Oh my God. How long do I have? Well, actually, I've got a YouTube channel in development, non-Tesla related. I had original plans to have a Tesla channel, and then ended up going in a different direction. So I've been basically working on that, and I've been after a pretty illustrious business career, ended up taking some sidetrack into a different field, and ultimately the pandemic changed everything, and that brought me into the whole Tesla world. I managed to buy some of the Tesla stock in the early 2020, and so I caught it at a pretty reasonable price, and looking forward to continuing my long-term investments in Tesla, and will never sell a single share no matter what. So how about that?
When it's on YouTube, it's a commitment.
That's right.
It's true.
What happens on the internet stays on the internet.
That's right.
We actually just, fun fact, I've only met Freddy this morning, so barely 5 hours ago.
Yes.
He was my co-pilot on our drive from Simi Valley down to Santa Barbara. It was an hour and a half ride. Got to see a beautiful coastal drive on the way. So all three of us are Tesla investors. We're forward-looking. The future is exciting. And Elon Musk builds exciting futures, not just in Tesla, but SpaceX. Let's start by talking about people.
Yes.
When Tesla thinks about its planet-wide scale and expansion, it needs the right people on board.
Yes.
And one of your topics in our earlier discussion was, what about Herbert Dees?
Yes.
Tell us more.
Okay. Well, obviously, most of the audience is familiar with the saga that has unfolded with Volkswagen. I think that's a great loss to them, and any hopes that we had of success in the EV marketplace from Volkswagen, I think, took a serious blow when they decided to part ways with Herbert. But that also opens up new potential opportunities for him and whatever company he decides to hook up with downstream. Just before it started, Alexandra and I were speaking about the fact that obviously he's got some sort of severance agreement or, phasing out of Volkswagen. So there's a question as to what his ties might be. I'm thinking that to the extent that a company thought that he had great value, that they might be able to buy him out on whatever that agreement is. Okay. And so, so part of what discussion I'd like to bring up is your thoughts and my thoughts about where Herbert Diess might fit in with Tesla, and that in whatever capacity that you might imagine. So this is kind of just for brainstorming.
Yeah. So my initial thought was as well, he would be a good add-on to Elon. Rather, I mean, we can discuss Herbert, but also I do see actually the need for a Diess person at Tesla. We have discussed this in an earlier recording, that one of the risks of Tesla is obviously the key man risk of Elon.
Of course.
And I also feel he's not really, in his element as a CEO. He does it because there's nobody better around, but he is certainly not delighted to have to do the CEO role. He's much better in the role that he does for SpaceX, right, where there is a CEO, and he can just oversee the technical developments, which is where he excels. So I do believe we need within Tesla a CEO / COO, probably more of a operations person, maybe also more of a communications person. And there is Herbert Diess. So Herbert could be that person. He also obviously would come from a country that has dominated luxury cars for a long, long time, with an experience at Volkswagen where he had to deal with the scandals here in America and overcame them. And I think that is always a good point on any resume, having to have to deal with American regulators and having managed that experience. So I do believe he has the pedigree that it takes. He also seems to get along quite well with Elon. There has been lots of chemistry and lots of short videos we've seen of them interacting. But the downsides obviously are, will Volkswagen, no matter the money, let him go?
Right.
how long is that non-compete clause? And then the other is also his age. And the third point probably is anybody non-American ever going to understand the rhythm and the speed and the diversity of products and ideas and technologies that Tesla has, right? Is it really a good idea to bring somebody from the old world? Yes, more modern than others, that's why he had to leave. But is it really a good idea to bring somebody from the old world into the new world? That remains to be seen. What do you think?
Right. To be honest with you, I know that the idea of having Herbert Diess serve in that senior type management role of a CEO certainly is a possibility. Again, the complications of whatever his agreement is with Volkswagen can be a complication. I was thinking in a very different kind of role, and in this respect. Well, for one, we had a conversation about one of my clients way back when, a large oil company, and the original founder of the company, and he was the deal maker.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who understood where the opportunities were and just jumped out. He bought oil company, bought a coal company, bought a meat packing company, all these different things. And it's kind of like it was almost like a yard sale, right?
Yeah.
But he was very opportunistic. He wasn't strategic in the way that Elon is. I mean, there was no plan clearly. He just saw opportunities. But these were gigantic deals. But what happened there was you had a CEO that was brought in by the board of directors. And there was this toxic battle that went on continuously within that organization. So part of my question would be, if he was in a CEO role, is managing Elon. Because Elon is used to having total freedom and going wherever the hot spot is, or whatever he thinks is important.
It works for SpaceX,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm sure he gets fairly free reign, in that role as well. But so here was partially what I was thinking. And this goes back to the fact that he's Austrian by background, okay? And, Austria does have an automotive manufacturing industry. Again, I don't know a great deal about that. They also are very much into mining.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it's European Metals or European Lithium, one of the two. I actually own stock in it, but a small position in it. But the question is that, we're always looking about where are the gigafactories going to go next.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to me, again, if you look at supply chains, that having a gigafactory possibly in Austria.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? And so, but what I was thinking was, thinking of a gigafactory, this is a real strategic thing and where that might play. But also the fact that you've got the mining opportunities with the lithium, which of course has been one of the limiting factors.
Mm-hmm.
So to the extent that they could cut a deal with one or more of the lithium mining companies in Austria, and of course you got Czechoslovakia's got a company.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in Portugal that I actually own a small position in that mining company. But the point is that you have all of these European resources, and they're trying to localize those lithium supplies as opposed to having it come from China or South America, which we're trying to move away from, and or at least Tesla is. So the question is, what role might Herbert play in orchestrating a broader, it's really a project-oriented approach to this. So he would be orchestrating something like that and being given what the necessary resources are within Tesla, and could potentially attract different kinds of talent throughout Europe.
But as head of Berlin then, or?
Again, just treat him as a project manager, so to speak. What his ultimate role is to be defined. But I think that this would be something that Herbert Diess would find stimulating. You talk about age, I think that's irrelevant. I think that he was really looking forward to the opportunity at Volkswagen with the whole EV marketplace and what they could do and how he would transform them from the legacy ICE manufacturer into the world that's going to be our near future. So to me, giving him an opportunity where he could really zero in, he's got his connections obviously within Germany, he's got his connections within Austria, and who knows, Czechoslovakia, it's kind of close. I'm sure there's relationships there. But what I think about is, Tesla is so focused on recruiting, right? I mean, all these autonomy, battery day, all these different types of events, they're recruiting opportunities. And if you had a guy like Herbert Diess, imagine the potential for him as an outstanding recruiter. With his charisma, right? And being given an opportunity or being given an assignment, if you will, to develop another gigafactory right in that region and bringing in all the pieces, the supply chain, and then dealing with logistics. These are all things that he's generically familiar with from his years at Volkswagen. And I frankly don't know where he worked before, but regardless, he's got that skill set. So if you gotta use him as an orchestrator and a guy kind of like Elon, where he can get an audience with anybody, right? Who's not going to meet with Herbert Diess, especially when he's doing a project for Tesla, right?
What I'll add on to this point is there's some people like Alex Voigt who strongly believe that Herbert Diess shouldn't be in Tesla. And I think he means it more as a CEO or like regional operations leader role. If I think of someone who is going to be like the Hawaiian Shotwell of Tesla, like how she is for SpaceX,
Yes.
to me, we're speaking to so many current and former Tesla employees, JB Straubel. Tesla's going to have a lot of money. They haven't made a major acquisition yet.
Yes. Yes.
Steve Jobs came back to Apple
Yes.
when they bought Next.
Yes. Yes.
What if Tesla buys
Redwood.
Redwood Materials?
Yeah.
JB Straubel comes
But
back.
that seems
Absolutely.
much more reasonable
Yes.
to me than these.
He is widely respected
Yes.
by Tesla employees, strongly respected by Elon. And one thing that a lot of people don't appreciate about Tesla management is, in Tesla, they strongly believe in this, everyone does their chores. When you speak in Farzad, speak at Joe Justice, you say, you're not just going to be a CEO making a decision in a room. Are you on the factory floor?
Yeah.
Exactly.
The engineers are right above the production line.
Yeah.
Whatever code changes you make, the people down there will tell you how they feel
Right.
instantly.
Right.
And someone like Herbert may not have the reputation of doing the chores. I think he's a great industry consultant, like to your point,
Yes.
opening the doors.
Right.
Here's where you find new gigafactories,
Yes.
raw materials. Speaking the industry language, getting institutional investors
Yeah.
who understand Tesla's perspective. I think he's going to be very well loved by institutional investors.
Absolutely. And I think he'll be adopted by the Tesla family, right? He's somebody from the outside. I mean, I can't think of another executive at another company other than J.D. Straubel who would have that sort of, attraction.
I still want to come back to that point with communications with regulators. I really believe that Tesla needs somebody with a high profile to manage the regulators. I don't think Straubel is that person, but these could be that
Yes.
person.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you. As bringing Straubel back, that would
Yes.
really be a big relief.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be unanimous.
That will probably be one of the biggest catalysts in stock price, apart from a S&P 500 inclusion,
Exactly.
beyond the baseline of
Right.
strong production,
Right.
strong profits, in my view.
Right.
So people are very important. There's Herbert Diess. Is there anyone else in the entire ecosystem where you think would be instrumental in building a stronger Tesla in the next 5 to 10 years? And here's a little bit of context. Dave Lee wrote a tweet saying that he believes that Tesla will be known as an AI company in the future. Elon agrees. So if we are moving from a car to an AI company,
Right.
what kind of people would we need surrounding this? Some people felt when Andrei Karpathy left, there was a loss. What's your take?
Well, I think it was a loss because he was very charismatic, but I do believe FSD's progress is so significant that in everyday execution, it didn't make a difference anymore. He probably left late enough to have, put the roadmap out there and done it. Now, does that mean that they have enough good engineers now to go into the bots? We'll see in very short weeks, right? On the 30th.
2 more weeks.
Exactly. So, I mean, Tesla is, apart from Elon, not really dependent on a single person at the moment. And he has proven that. I mean, people have gone and come back or left just like that. And it has never really disrupted the whole workflow, the whole developments. It is still Elon's company, no doubt about it.
But part of what he does is so beautiful is that he basically says, here's your charter. And then he gives these incredibly talented people a long leash.
Yeah.
And he allows them to succeed or fail. And failure, we both know, right? Is you fail and you fix,
Sure.
right? And that's how you learn in that constant iteration of and the process. So, the whole thing with Dojo, is very, very important, in terms of the capacity of that hardware software solution to handle these gigantic neural networks. That is a gigantic step forward for this company and even in the entire field. So I don't know the other players. I mean, we saw them at the original Autonomy Day.
Yes.
But obviously Andre leaving, I think that there's a potential for him to come back at some point. he's going back into academia,
Mhm.
and so he might find that the grass was greener, and maybe it really wasn't quite the same. He maybe isn't going to get the same kind of stimulation that he had at Tesla. So I kind of see him as kind of maybe like a J.D. Straubel coming back in at some point in the future. In the meantime, they've got a lot on their plate. What I find very interesting about the whole AI side, which I've had a great interest in for a while, is the various applications. Now, obviously, the bot, that's off the charts. That is such an incredible opportunity, and the fact that it could ultimately be the labor force for mankind.
Yeah.
But in the near term, the ability to leverage with the bots within the manufacturing side, even things like warehousing and distribution, right? I mean, where you moving boxes. I mean, real, the things that people don't want to do or that they can get injured doing, the dangerous jobs, unpleasant jobs. But so the bots is a whole ball of wax all by itself. Extremely fascinating. At the same time, you have other avenues, and I keep looking at Mars, and I say, what's he going to need on Mars? What's he going to need on those starships? You think about things like security, right? So there's a whole security side of the world where bots and various technologies, obviously the vision technology, and so you have some sort of AI. I mean, you got to kind of worry about Big Brother if you kind of extrapolate out there too far. But the point is, some of that's necessary. It's like any tool, it can be used as a good or it can be used as a bad. And he's one who represents the good use of AI so that we work with AI to make mankind, have a brighter future, which is part of
Do
this.
you think that the vision concept of FSD is going to be the element that will set apart Tesla bots from all other bots? Because I mean, there will be bots from other manufacturers.
Yeah, but I mean, I follow. There's a YouTube channel called Pro Robots, I think it's called, and it covers the broad category of robots. Everything that I've seen there, bottom line is that there's nobody doing what he's doing. There's nobody, and the other key thing is that how are you going to manufacture robots at scale? Nobody's going to compete with Elon and Tesla. They have got manufacturing down incredibly.
Yeah.
And the difference is that you're using a smaller amount of mass, right? Smaller battery pack, and you're basically giving it intelligence. And as the whole neural network for the bots evolves, as they begin to learn and they gather that gigantic database. I mean, you can imagine thousands, then millions, potentially a billion bots deployed, whether it's within Tesla or around the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's really quite unbelievable. And so I think that the whole thing with understanding your world, that's what FSD and their whole AI approach is so key, because then you just can take these narrow AI applications, whether it's security, whatever, and you can apply it, and then you build the database for that, and it starts to evolve on its own. And then as the platform itself with the dojo, as that continues to evolve, and of course you've got these new evolutions of chips and everything else, capacity is going to be less and less of an issue downstream, then
Yes.
everything's possible.
Yeah.
I want to build on both your question and also your point here, Fred. When you build a bot, on the software side, this morning we wrote on a Tesla Model Y.
Absolutely.
It's basically a robot traveling at 60 miles per hour with 5 humans that you must protect.
And I kept asking you, did you do that?
Exactly.
Oh, right, remember?
Yes. So if Tesla already has 2 million robots on the road driving 60 miles per hour with 5 humans, including children,
Yes.
3 million.
how hard is it when you need to build another robot traveling at 5 miles per hour with no humans around you? It's a lot lower in complexity. If you can solve for a car, solving for a Tesla bot from a software perspective,
So it comes down to vision.
it goes down.
Right, because the bot's working with an inanimate object.
And in controlled environments.
In a controlled environment as well.
At
Yes.
low speed. There are no 90 mile per hour cars.
Exactly.
So that's a
And
software
no
plus.
regulations to be listened to.
And you can ramp up the difficulty like a video game from level 1 to level 100. Whereas for full self-driving cars, you instantly start at ultra difficulty because the regulators are watching every single step.
Yeah.
That's the software. Now on the hardware part, they talk about scale. A lot of people would compare Tesla bot with Boston Dynamics. They can make the robots dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Can they make 1 million bots next year?
No.
Tesla can.
Exactly. The other thing too, and I think again, if you're looking, when he talks about the bots are aimed at repetitive work, dangerous work, I forgot what the third category, whatever it is. But the point is that, I'm familiar, in working a job, I have a repetitive use injury in my rotator cuff caused by closing a sliding door on a vehicle. And I probably did that hundreds of thousands of times. And although I was powerful and athletic and everything else, eventually I wore out that particular area, which I'm rehabbing. But the point is that you have a million jobs. Look at how many back injuries, right, from lifting. And this is common. Somebody works in a supermarket in the produce department, and you say, oh, well, they're doing fine. Then one day they go to lift the 50-pound box of whatever it is, right? They strain their back and they're crippled for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So these kinds of benefits, how is that measurable? When you're talking about the potential to improve the quality of life of these workers, and you're raising what work they can do. Now, you may need to do retraining, but the point is that that's a better job. That's a job that's more stimulating, and potentially higher paying at the same time. So the bots can raise all boats if used and deployed properly. This is a real key. When we look at all the capital that they're capable of deploying today, and then we extrapolate out from what we know how this business is growing and all the cash, they're going to have a problem deploying all this capital. Well, if you can put it into this type of venture, and that in itself creates its own stream. These are like, mother loads in a gold mine. So
the way I see it, the total addressable market for Tesla bot is almost a human population. If it costs $50,000, let's say the high end, I can't imagine any of the homes surrounding us which wouldn't benefit from Tesla bot.
yes,
Elderly care, child care,
exactly.
space mining,
Right.
chores,
Right.
security.
Right.
There's so many applications. Basically, 7 billion people out there, everyone could have a Tesla bot companion. So Tesla's future is very expensive. The hard decisions are executing for the future. Right now, the car business is providing a lot of money. What do we do with that money in the next few years? I'd love to hear both your thoughts.
Make more money. That's always what finance people will tell you. I mean, for me, it seems evident they have to roll out the whole diversified range of cars, right? Which is going to happen now with the Cybertruck, with the Roadster coming. And I'm still very hopeful for a smaller, cheaper Tesla, which will kill the competition. I mean, the day there is a $30,000 or $35,000 Tesla out there, I don't see anybody else being able to compete. But they are cash machines, right? We're talking today about operating margins of 30% per car. Probably it will go up to 50% once we have the Cybertruck. So with all this money, what will they do? Well, they will build more cars, but at one moment it will be deployed to different products, right? The different products will be the bots, but I think there are actually more things still out there. And obviously we still have energy. We have the whole Powerwall and solar to develop. But I do still believe, I'm still really waiting for that Master Plan 3, because I do believe there is even more to come.
If I may, so you touched on one of the topics, which is the whole energy side. So it turns out I come from some background in solar and basically green building technology. So I got very involved in understanding utilities. And so I think that one of the biggest opportunities, and this is a worldwide opportunity, including developing countries, is building out the grids, but with obviously the battery energy storage systems, right? And so, the whole Megapack side, I mean, they got the factory in Lathrop or Lathrop, depending on how you want to pronounce that. But the point is that, he's been working on rapidly expanding the battery supply through existing suppliers. Obviously, they've got their own battery production. They've got the cathode plant in Austin, which is, I'm really anxious to see how that is going to play out, because I think that's really key, because they've got spodumene supposedly coming into that plant, and they've got cathodes, the big long rolls, big wide rolls that are going to get, spun and chopped up in the other side of the factory. But so then you go back to that whole lithium supply thing. So I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about the lithium mining and should they acquire companies and that sort of thing. I mean, they've obviously cut deals with companies for supply, and I mean they're working on. They're just incredible at this whole thing in terms of getting ahead of the game by years. Okay, but like this whole thing there was an announcement about them doing a lithium factory somewhere in the Gulf area. Okay. Now, what was very interesting about that, so there's a technology called direct lithium extraction. Okay. Usually from brine, but also, he has this lithium clay property in Nevada.
Yeah.
And they said that the process is water and salt. Okay. So, and then he's saying the Gulf. And so I'm thinking, well, what are you doing with a lithium factory in the Gulf area, right?
Mhm.
It's not like necessarily, I mean, there's Piedmont that's, one of the suppliers down there, but that's, for spodumene, really. But the question is, are they going to be somehow, because he said you can extract lithium from salt water.
So desalinate the ocean.
Well, again, it's probably in very, very small concentrations. But let's say that he's hired the experts, that he's got people who've been working on this solution. And so the same process, essentially, that might be used for either extracting it from salt water or for some sort of brine extraction, whether it's from geothermal or wherever he can get that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent that he might be able to take advantage of some of the oil industry, because they do use brine. I don't know if this only for re-injection, but maybe if it's coming out, maybe they can reclaim some of that or kind of recycle that and put it through another processing step. And then you say to yourself, well, if they have direct lithium extraction, and there are people that he can hire, there's talent out there who are already addressing this, because they got the Salton Sea deposits, with the geothermal, and they're looking at, extracting the battery minerals. And then you say, well, if you can use it that way, then maybe the same process is going to be used for the lithium clay deposits in Nevada. That's what I'm thinking, because then you have it, the proximity to Giga Nevada, right? And who knows what the potential of that is, and if they can get past the environmental, obstacles or whatever. So I'm kind of thinking about that whole aspect, supporting the entire battery side, which enables everything, bots and everything, right? And so if you basically now make that an unlimited supply, you have ocean water everywhere.
Yes.
Right? And so I kind of look at that, but the build out of the grids and the elimination of all the fossil fuel aspects, the peaker plants, they're already starting to address those. And if they can overcome that limitation on batteries, then this is, I don't know how many trillions of dollars this is. You take a country like Indonesia, right? I imagine that their grid is probably not the most sophisticated grid in the world, right? And so if you could actually begin the electrification of that grid with the battery storage, and then you've got all the software that they've developed with it and everything else. And then, of course, it supports the power walls and all that. Anyway, so I have a million different ideas about where that might go. So this is really a question of where do they deploy the monetary capital and then the human capital, which gets back to what you were saying.
Did you expect Master Plan 3 already to be out, or do you think it's going to come soon?
I think he's just busy. He's got a lot on his plate. I'm sure that he's really anxious to publish whatever his ideas are. And then, of course, we'll have a window into what, his future view of the world is. And that will change our outlook, probably boost it even more. I'm always worried about the fact, of not being enough stock available out there, right? And driving up the price too fast, especially with these institutional investors, once they get the Moody's,
Well, I
or
don't
whoever.
think it can go quick enough.
Right? Or use your strategy where, you basically
shame them into it.
If you basically force them into it, right?
Would I do that?
Yes, you would. Absolutely. If you were calling the shots, you would have done it yesterday.
The S&P note looks encouraging. So it looks like October.
Yes, end of October, yeah. I think
One more month. We've talked so much about Tesla's future. It's very bright. First, with talent, SpaceX and Tesla are the top 1 and 2 choices for engineering graduates. We talk about money. As Alexandra mentioned, margins are going up. Freddy has mentioned the wide applications of opportunities that Tesla can do to build out everything from energy to the grid, eventually to bot. I have one final question for both of you. This is something that most people are not talking about today in Tesla's future. We put all the pieces together, Tesla is going to be a gigantic company. And with that usually comes antitrust regulations. Or for foreign governments, let's say China, there may be certain government intervention on actions. How do you see that playing out in the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't see the risk. I can tell you why. I actually think he was very proactive, Elon, by not putting everything under one roof. Remember, about a year ago, there were all these discussions.
Yes.
Should we have an X company, have Tesla, Neuralink, SpaceX, and everybody, everything in the same company? And he did not. And I think that was exactly the reasoning, thinking, if we do that too early, they will come after us wanting to break it up again. This is not like a social media company that has a lot of public influence and where you have issues about, is everything truthfully represented, is this an open market space or whatever. This is a manufacturing company and still will be.
Don't buy Twitter.
Buy Twitter, but that's another
discussion.
But I do believe as long as it stays a manufacturing company, no matter how large it goes, there's not going to be an antitrust issue. And what's your feeling?
Well, what I look at is a couple things. So let's put China aside, because that's really a wild card. I don't think anybody knows what might happen there. So we just kind of have to hope for the best. And he seems to have a decent relationship certainly within the regional government side. And of course, I think that Tesla is incredibly important to China, right? Their people are dying left and right from breathing this polluted air and everything else. And really, what is he doing? He's bringing technology and he's bringing industrial growth to their country and growing the whole supply chain around them. Look at CATL and even BYD, whatever it happens to be. So that's in their interest. Okay, but looking at the U.S., it is very clear from this IRA Act that the objectives, the goals, and the priorities have changed. What I love is the fact that we're bringing manufacturing back to America, and even bringing mining back, at some point. But the point is that the government recognizes that for the long-term sake of the economy, and for us to reclaim our leadership in other areas, in addition to basic tech that we find in Silicon Valley, but the application of manufacturing technology and bringing back engineering as a profession, instead of having more lawyers and quote and MBAs, as Elon likes to, even though I'm an MBA, but I'm not the kind of MBA he's talking about. But the point of the matter is that if you look at the original, what was it? He had an original bill, whatever the hell that was called. But I don't want to say Make America Great Again. That was a different guy.
Build Back Better.
Build Back Better. There you go. But anyway, if you look at that has now been so de-emphasized by this Inflation Reduction Act, but not by that title, but by what it is incentivizing. And look at Tesla suddenly reprioritizing things. Well, sure, it makes perfect sense. And who benefits? Well, our country certainly does, and our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. We already got the NAFTA arrangement with both of those countries. It's all North America, and that's not to say that we can't bring other parts of Central America or some of the South American countries. Whether it's Albemarle with their lithium process down in South America. But the point is that all of these things come together. If you look at climate change, if we're to have any chance, humankind, of beating this thing, it's got to be with Tesla. If Tesla didn't exist, we'd be up what creek. Okay? The bottom line is that everything is suddenly possible. There is a bright future within our grasp, but it's only with a leader like Elon and with the kind of talent that he's attracting and the type of capital that they're generating. It is perfectly aligned to revolutionize our future. Absolutely.
Freddy, what's so inspiring about today is you talk about Elon bringing things together, but also bringing people around the world together. 3 of us. I don't think would be our social circles even interact in any way.
Exactly.
This is a company that brings together an 80-year-old and a 12-year-old in school together.
I'm not 80.
Yeah.
Neither am I. People, yes?
Yes.
It's just like a wide range of people. I can't imagine having this conversation about Apple or Nvidia.
It happens.
Anything.
Yeah.
Really. What would bring this sort of energy together? Right.
And as you say,
unlikely, whoever the audience happens to be,
It's about a brighter future, something we can look forward to. And I think that's what wakes us up as humanity. As Elon mentioned, we want to wake up with something, whether it's reaching for the stars, becoming multiplanetary species, or every one of us having agency in making the planet better. I don't think for three of us that investing in Tesla is only about the money.
Oh no.
It's clearly not only about the financial returns. If it was, we wouldn't be that invested in this journey.
Yeah, correct.
This has been a gift. Freddy, Alexandra, thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
This is a wonderful Saturday afternoon. I couldn't have asked for more. If you found this conversation insightful and delightful, please click the like button. You will find Freddy and Alexandra's YouTube channel and Substacks
There you go.
in the video description. Hit subscribe to stay updated to more conversations like this.